Hello, everybody. This is Drew Gerber here, and I am with my very dear friend, Elise Hope Killeron, because she gives me hope every day. So Elise and I, she's a dear friend, and we've been meeting together for, gosh, what, Elise, like 7 or 8 years. We've been meeting together every single morning. And we get together and just kind of chat about what lights us up and what turns us on and what excites us for the day and all really good, juicy stuff. But most of our conversations always come back to the same thing, which is what really makes the biggest difference for humanity, for human beings. And we've had a lot of conversations about a lot of different things, but we always keep coming back to this conversation that you actually, you were the first person to come up with this whole distinction called home for yourself and what that really means for human beings to be home for themselves. So I wanted to do this special video with you because Lord knows we're in the middle of a huge emergency with the coronavirus. And I think more than ever, people need to be home for themselves. So thank you for doing this call with me.
Well, thank you for suggesting it and creating the space for us to see what is going to happen. It's so interesting that people are being encouraged to be home physically,
right?
And that is making them leave home mentally and emotionally. Like that we have a very confusing relationship with this idea of home. I mean, I'm not the first to come up with the idea of being home or coming home. People kind of get that. If you just bring it up as a phrase, like you've said to people, coming home to yourself, and they're like, oh yeah, like we have an innate sense of what that is.
Yeah.
But it hasn't been anything that any of us have been trained to prioritize or trained to pay a lot of attention to, because we're so used to just prioritizing something else, the doing, the accomplishing, the making something happen, the being, connected to our agendas. So being told, stay home, let go of your agendas, let go of your attachments, let go of the things that you thought were important. That is really throwing people off.
Yeah, it is. It's interesting, this whole notion of uncertainty and this interruption in, life as usual, business as usual, and it's not that. And I think my hope for this is that people see this really for the opportunity is because this is a moment in history. Our world is never going to be the same. As much as we cling to that, hope for that, it's not. So really the question is, okay, good, given it's not going to be that, how do we create our world that we want, the lives that we want? And this is a moment to step back and really do that. And I wanted to just kind of invite people into our morning conversation to just kind of have this chat about what does that mean really to be home for yourselves?
And what I love about what you just said is it makes us, we have had so many conversations where we compare life to a movie, where we have a director and we have a script that we don't know about. And we wake up one morning and the director has changed, the direction of the character's life. And we're like, whoa, I didn't see that coming. But I think it's a useful thing to think about, because when you don't go to a movie to watch the character have the same experience from beginning to end. Nobody would sit through that. Nobody would sit through it. And this morning, for the 15th time, I get up. So when we watch a movie, we seem to innately know that what we want to have happen is we want our lead character to be challenged. We want our lead character to be thrown out of their comfort zone. We want our lead character to go on some kind of a expedition to discover something about themselves, so that at the end of the movie, they're different than they were at the beginning. Like, we know that that's what we want in our entertainment, that's what's satisfying. But we don't think that we want that for ourselves. We think that we want the predictability and everything stay the same. So the greatest thing we could do for ourselves now is to really question, is it true that business as usual was the best thing for me, for all of us? Was it true? Because when we question whether it was true, like I read yesterday that there's an article suggesting that more than, I think it was like more than 10 times the amount of lives might have been saved in China because of the decrease in the pollution.
I saw that. Yes. Right.
So what if our business as usual is kind of like walking with blinders on and deliberately not paying attention to things that are worth paying attention to? And when you have a pattern interrupt like this, it forces us to pay attention in a different way, and something new can emerge that didn't have the capacity to emerge when we were comfortable.
I love the whole movie analogy, and all the time we've kind of talked about it. I've never thought about this, but it is, for me, it's really interesting in the movie. The characters always have the resources that they need. They always have the resources. And if we stop for a minute, we always do have the resources that we need.
Yes.
But we forget that. We forget that. And yeah.
Not
And
only do we forget that, we tell a completely different story of that. Like we tell a story of the resources that we need are coming to us from the outside, and they're only available as we stay on the treadmill. And if we stop the treadmill, we will be resourceless. Like, we are convinced of that.
Right. It's so interesting. I was doing a Facebook Live today talking about, and you and I have talked about, our thrown way of being is, we look at life, it's from the negative, right? We tend to go to the negative. We tend to go to the fear. We tend to go to the anxiety. We tend to go to the stress, instead of actually getting present in the moment. So it's funny how we tend to look at life from lack instead of abundance.
It's funny, and it's like evolutionarily wired. Get to our favorite part of the brain. I keep coming back to, and that I find it so fascinating that so many of our conversations kind of go back to what you've called the crux, the centerpiece. That evolutionarily we were wired. Rick Hansen says that we're wired to be Teflon for the negative and Velcro for the positive. Our brains have a negativity bias. It is natural for us to be more aware. And that was evolutionarily appropriate, because in the past, when you could die because you're being chased by some kind of an animal, and you do want, if you have to set your amygdala as an alert, you're going to set it kind of overcompensating. I'd rather be told that I should be afraid and run in moments when I really shouldn't be, versus I'd rather be told that I'm okay when the Tyrannosaurus Rex is right behind me. Not that we lived with Tyrannosaurus Rex, but I'm just saying prehistoric consciousness.
Yeah.
So I'd rather set my alarm so that it overstimulated. So imagine if you had a smoke alarm like that, and it went off dozens of times every day. Like, at a certain point, you would have a hard time functioning. You wouldn't know whether to be actually worried or not worried. It would just throw your entire system off. And that's what we have. Our amygdalas have not evolved. Lots of us have, but our amygdalas haven't evolved. And we are living as if every moment is a potential survival issue. And because we're living as if every moment is a potential survival issue, when something that actually is threat to our survival, we have no capacity to stay with it, to be with it. We numb out, or we get overwhelmed. And that's another big thing here, Drew, is I'm watching people, and I feel like people don't understand enough about trauma to realize that this is activating our unresolved traumas. And we all have them.
Right.
But a new threat activates all the previous unresolved threats. And so that's why people are hoarding toilet paper and buying guns. Like, you can't battle this virus with toilet paper or guns, but this is this unconscious physiological compensation mechanism because people's unresolved older stuff is getting activated now on top of the seriousness of this moment.
Yeah, I love that. For you, if you're listening and you're not a geek like us, the amygdala is an almond-shaped space in the brain. It's the place in the brain that actually tells us that we're safe, we're secure, and that we actually matter. So it is really, like you say, over time, it's that place that's been aggravated over time, that needs to be calm and needs to be soothed and needs to be kind of rewired.
Yeah, it needs to be
Yeah.
rewired. It is not, you know, it's almost like you've got a computer that's operating with technology from millions of years ago.
Yes.
And so whenever that particular technology senses something that it worries about, your computer just turns off. Like,
Yeah.
that's really what happens. If you think of the amygdala as part of the emotional brain, this is the Dan Siegel hand model. So this is your brain stem here. This is your cortex going over your emotional brain. Every time your amygdala gets activated, you flip your lid, which means you lose your connection to your thinking brain. And you're just in your primitive reptilian fight or flight. You're in your emotions that are overwhelming you, and you do not have access to the part of you that you think of as yourself, that has bigger, wiser perspective. You lose connection to that. And right now, we don't know about this. I mean, that's why you and I have talked about it for so long, because it feels like it's the most important thing about being a human being that human beings don't know. And so we've always said that, you know, what is life like if you do understand this? If you understand how your physiology and your emotions and your mind either are online together or are offline together. And so home is when they're online together, when you're physiologically feeling safe in your body, and it has to do with in this moment. I can recognize in this moment. There is no actual threat. And you're emotionally able to stay in the kinds of emotions that keep your prefrontal cortex and your emotional brain connected. And then mentally, you have access to a much more expanded perspective. Otherwise, you're just spinning in these automatic pilot responses that you're bringing up from your childhood, and you don't even realize you're doing it.
So what do you think is like the most important thing that people can be doing during these times?
I think that this is why you and I are starting this conversation, because because every action that we take is a result of the kind of quality of thinking that we have about what is being asked of us, which is a result of the state that we're in. So if people are in states of physiological arousal and emotional overload and minds that are just spinning a mile a minute, the decisions they make on their own behalf and on behalf of all the rest of us are going to be maladaptive, and they're going to create outcomes that none of us want. Right. So the other side of that is we can't change the uncertainty. The uncertainty is what's certain. Right. We can't control this, no matter how much, there's been talk of all sorts of, borders to protect things from happening. There's no border from this. The entire planet is in this together. So we can't cut ourselves off, and there's no way to control it. But what we can do is we can connect with the part of us that actually can stay balanced, that can stay physiologically calm, that can stay emotionally attentive, and that can then make decisions from that place. Any of decisions that we make from that place will be beneficial for us individually and for us collectively. So that feels like the crux to me. It feels like the most important thing. And I do believe people understanding this trauma piece is also really important, because this situation, trauma is not something that happens. Trauma is what stays in your nervous system and your physiology as a result of how you experienced what happened. So right now, people are either going to move through this situation with grace, or they're going to become re-traumatized. And traumatized people traumatize other people, and that becomes this that's a virus, that's contagious.
Yeah.
So if we can help people understand that there are ways to soothe the amygdala, and when you soothe the amygdala, you actually start to release these pre-traumatized memories, because the amygdala has a different memory system than, where I'll geek out for a moment, than the hippocampus. It's not necessary to know that, but what you think of as your memory, like I know my name, I know how to ride a bike, the procedural memory, factual memory, narrative memory, that's all hippocampal memory. The amygdala is what's responsible for your emotionally intense memory. And your emotionally intense memory, evolutionarily, is designed so that you never, ever, ever forget it. This is like life and death. So you're designed to never, ever, ever forget the things that are emotionally intense. And you can rewire that. It's actually quite amazingly simple to rewire that. And every layer of that emotional intensity that you let go of makes it easier for you to stay home in a new moment of uncertainty.
Yeah, I think that's, because we watch kind of in kind of shock, watching these people hoard toilet paper, buy guns, just really like the bizarre behavior over this, not even a real threat. Companies have said there's plenty of supplies and all of that. But it, like you say, that comes from unresolved trauma. So they're not dealing with the current situation that's happening now. They're not buying toilet paper. It's not logical. It's not going to make them safe, but they feel like that's an area where they can have control, the illusion of control.
Exactly.
That they can actually have control. But
if you interview them, they will not have a rational, logical explanation, because they're hijacked. They are in reactivity. They're in physiological reactivity. They're in emotional protection. Their minds are spinning. They're in tremendous conflict in their minds. And so the whole gamut of that is somebody who is compelled to take some action that they think is going to make them feel better. And it doesn't. And I have tremendous compassion, because we all do that. Like we've all done that in different moments. The moment that you scream at the person you love, and then you say, wow, that is so not you. That is not what I really want to create in the world. The moment that you do something that violates your sense of integrity, but you were you justified it because you had to do it. That's all because of this unresolved stuff that we're being run by. Like we don't even know that we're being run by it, because it's subcortical. It's underneath the thinking mind layer. And these kind of situations bring it right to the surface.
Right, exactly, right. The coronavirus, the uncertainty of it, for sure, it has us all hijacked. All of us are hijacked at different levels, but I think we're all hijacked here. Just to be straight about it, I think the opportunity that this is to actually rewire our brain, hopefully for evolution, to upgrade. It's an opportunity for upgrading. So one of the reasons I wanted to do this call is I really wanted to give people some practical tools that they could start practicing. There's an opportunity now. So you can either check out or you can check in and really take an opportunity to upgrade, to rewire. So can you share, like, what are some simple tools that you'd recommend for rewiring ourselves?
Okay, so if you ask for simple tools to just get calm in the moment, there's so many wonderful things. And I think if you look up EBT, I think it's EBT.org, Emotional Brain Training, they're offering free groups. I think all month they're offering free groups to take people through their process, which is a way of keeping that amygdala and that prefrontal cortex connected. It's a beautiful, elegant system. EBT, Laurel Mellon. Heart Math is offering some programs to teach you heart care. When you get into your heart, you will automatically have your synchronization between your head and your heart and your gut. Like those things happen. But when you're talking about trauma and trying to shed layers of trauma, after studying all the things that I've studied, I'm very fond of something that's called havening. And you can find that at havening.org. And I'll tell you why. Because it actually does get to that subcortical layer, that it soothes the amygdala. And it's scientifically just fascinating to me because, so let me give you a quick explanation of what trauma is. The acronym that we use in havening is Emily. Emily creates trauma. EMLI. So E is an event, could be any kind of an event, but the event that creates physiological arousal, which means the rapid gamma waves, which is the fastest kind of brain waves, will be running because you're so activated. And your cortisol will be pouring through your body because you're in fight or flight. So you have to have a very activated physiology in response to an event. Without an activated physiology, no trauma. The second, EM, M is meaning. You have to feel as if something that is absolutely crucial that you're attached to is being threatened. So right now, if we were going to list why this feels so traumatizing to us, it's all the attachments. We might lose people we love. We might lose our own lives. We're losing money. We're losing our ability to see and be connected to people. It's all about attachments. And that's where your nervous system is connecting that the possible loss of these attachments is a threat to your survival, which is why the amygdala is activated. So you have to have an event that has that rapid gamma waves and the rapid cortisol pouring through your body, the adrenaline. You have to have meaning that's threatened. The next one I had mentioned before is it's landscape, which means how many prior challenges like this have you had? And not challenges like this specifically, but any kind of a challenge. You know, in childhood, it could have been hospitalization. There's something called the ACEs study that looks at adverse childhood experiences and how they impact us throughout our lifetimes in terms of mental and physical health. Challenges that are unresolved from childhood are in our systems. And so a situation like this reactivates. So you have to be traumatized, you have to already have had a vulnerable landscape. People who went through like 9/11 and did not have vulnerable landscapes had completely different post-traumatic stress experiences than people who had previous vulnerable landscapes. They were predictably going into PTSD. And the final thing is Emily with an I, is inescapability. And we have a lot of that now. There is no way to escape this. There is no way to control this. There is no way to know when it's going to be over. There is no way to protect people that you care about. That inescapability, if you add all of these up and you say, is there an event that's triggering our physiology? Yes. Is there meaning that threatens our attachments? Yes. Do most of us have some level of vulnerable landscape? We've all been through 9/11. Most of us have vulnerable landscapes, some of us way more than others. And then, is this inescapable? Yes. So the likelihood of this becoming traumatizing and re-traumatizing is high, but the beauty of havening is that we meet each of those things by providing the antidote. So instead of having the quick gamma waves that make your body feel like you're got to go into fight or flight, we calm the nervous system. We provide delta waves that slows everything down in the body and gives you a feeling of being safe. Instead of the feeling that your attachments are threatened, you come into a space of feeling like you're connected to yourself and you're aware of the resources that you have and you're not alone in this. We're soothing the vulnerable landscape. And instead of inescapability, you come into the present moment. And in the present moment, it becomes so clear that in this moment, I have what I need in this moment. And that feeling of I have enough in this moment, all of those together rewires that. Now it happened, you can do this incredibly.
This is too crazy. So I just get a message from my mom that they just had an earthquake in Utah. Speaking of this.
Yes, okay, so that's, yeah, so
Right.
add more and more uncertainty, right?
Yeah. So I just need to make sure that everything's okay.
Okay, and even that phrase, you have to make sure everything's okay, you know, but what if it's not okay? Like, you have to be able to be with this. So you and I have talked about this. While you're typing, I'll just keep talking. You got to type to your mom.
Hold on. I got to just, hold on. I'll mute myself.
Okay. So stress, the best way to understand stress is that stress, the equation of stress is our sense of the demands of the moment minus our sense of our own resources in the moment. And so what just happened with you is a demand happens, and then you have to have enough resources to meet the demand. To make sure it's okay is your idea of I'm gonna make everything back to balance. I'm gonna make it okay. But what we're invited to right now is to play the stress game a little different and say, if stress is the requirements of the moment minus my sense of resources, instead of trying to make the demands of the moment smaller, because we can't, we need to make our resources bigger. We need to see we have more resources than we thought we had.
All right, good. Everything's fine.
Okay.
Good. But I think it would be great. So I love this. I think it would be great to actually, can we do a havening process? Like, can you do a general havening process with us right now?
How much time do you want to take? I mean, I can just teach the basics right now. I think what we could do is we could make a part 2 of this. You know, this is almost like we can make this the philosophical, tell your left brain what's going on.
Yes.
Then make a part 2 where we take people through a process, because I think that I think it just would be a beautiful thing for people to have the direct personal experience. It seems amazing when I work with people who have had some kind of PTSD or phobias, or this works on anything that was emotionally encoded. They don't believe that they could ever focus on the subject that made them all aroused and feel calm. So the experience of having that happen is, it changes your sense of your resources. It's like, oh, wait a minute, I probably can, I'm bigger than I thought I was. So we can't work with trauma in like a large group, but we could kind of create a step-by-step stepping down, the general things people are concerned about.
I think that would be great. Yeah, given we're flying by the seat of our pants here and just making them as we go along. I love that idea, and I think it would be, because I've seen people that do like general havening, giving tools, because I think just even the basics would be really amazing, because the opportunity to come out of this is not only to not get re-traumatized. The opportunity that this is an opportunity to rewire ourselves, to change that landscape. That is the opportunity that is before us with that. So I would love that. So yeah, so let's plan on, if you're game, I'd love to do a part 2 of this, and actually where we actually kind of, walk people through the process, the stepping down, as a real opportunity to, calm the amygdala, get present to the resources we really have, because it is our movie. We are the character, and the director would not have us go through this. Whatever you say the director is, God, the universe, would not have us go through this if we didn't really have the resources we need to, come out of this.
Right. And our future selves at the end of the movie, we want them to look back and say, good job, you showed up for this. We don't want them to, at the end of the movie, say, why did you hide the whole time?
That's brilliant. All right, well, I adore you, and I am so thankful that you did this. for me, for us, for the world. I think you're brilliant. And as your name says, you're bringing hope to the world. Thank you, everybody, for watching. I hope you found this useful, and look for the part 2. We'll probably do that in the next couple of days. Thanks. Bye.